Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan, streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app, and streaming live on YouTube. The Fan KLGN is where you can check out our video streams. You're going to want to be tuned in there. For after our first hour, those of you who want us to do a 2-hour show, we will pretty much be doing just that.
We are going overtime today.
Yeah, it is.
I can already tell you that.
Yeah, it is a certainty. We've got a lot of stuff, a lot of interview content to go through. As myself and Eric were up on campus today on the quad as Utah State was celebrating its entrance into the Pac-12, official now. July 1, 2026. That is the day Utah State officially joined the Pac-12. So they were having a little event. They've had a few different smaller events, included that, if there's some fun, food, and all that. They had us, KSL was up there as well, just media, just doing a bunch of interviews, chance to meet with a lot of these coaches and some higher ups as well. We got to talk to Brad Mortensen, Cam Walker, Bronco, Ben Jacobson, Manny Martins, basically any coaching. When I was there, some people could make it to 11 a.m., but, lunchtime in the middle of a workday. But still, got a chance to talk to a lot of different people. We will play as many of those interviews as we can get to. I don't think I was able to upload into our system Kristen Zaleski's interview, but we did just have her on last Wednesday. But you will be able to see that interview on our YouTube page, and we'll probably throw it on our podcast feed as well once I get video files converted to audio files. But you should be able to watch any of these interviews we'll play on our YouTube page, the Fan KLGN. We'll play as many of them as we can today, which is going to include extra time.
Yeah, but really interesting conversations. I mean, some stuff, questions we've kind of asked before, but we were able to get into some other areas with some of these coaches and with the administrators at Utah State. And a little bit of news, actually, in one of those with Cam Walker making an announcement of some fundraising efforts going on. But it was fun to be up there. Great to have that access to talk to the coaches and administrators at Utah State. Why don't we just get into it? I know this is a big day. There's some other big news happening today with the Utah Jazz.
Are there things? Did something happen with the Jazz? Did they make any notable
But we're going to have to put a pin in that because other big news for us here closer to home with Utah State officially in the Pac-12 today, and we'll have our conversation share our conversation with Cam Walker, Director of Athletics at Utah State University.
Okay, we are here at Utah State's celebration of entering the Pac-12. We're here with KVNU on 106.9 The Fan. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen, here with Utah State Athletics Director Cam Walker. Thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, a lot of fun for today. Yeah,
very exciting. I mean, we've got no, they can't see them, but we got student athletes, we got coaches, we got food trucks. It's exciting and a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great celebration. I know there's tons of people really excited. Like last night, it's like 10 p.m., and it's like, how many more seconds, how many more minutes until it's entering the Pac-12? A lot of fun on social media last night, this morning. And what does it feel like now it's official? The last, almost year, but especially like the past 4 or 5 months, once kind of the sports season ended, it's just felt like this limbo of, you're in the Pac-12 or you're in the Mountain West, but like kind of treating it like it's in the Pac-12. But now it's officially here. You can kind of move on. Yeah,
and I feel fortunate. For many, this journey was much longer than mine, right?
Yeah.
I got like 8 months in this kind of limbo state. But it's incredible. And the excitement and the opportunity we have to build here is just all before us and really exciting. We'll be able to accomplish just so many things, and to be able to turn that page and say, like, now. And it feels like I know we started with a race last night with our 5K kickoff, and Ben Jacobson, what a great stride in the 5K. Man, that guy shows up and runs it, which was unbelievable. But it feels like, I think that race was kind of symbolic. Like, it feels like, all right, it's time to go.
It's like, green flag, green light, go.
Correct. And now it's how fast can we go, and how long can we sustain it? And my hope is for really fast and for a really long time.
I know you've been one of the first things you did when you got here was to try to create some momentum in fundraising and things like that, and certain level of season ticket sales, and try to reach certain levels to kick this thing off in the right way. Now it started, like there was a goal to have certain stuff figured out by this date.
Yeah.
How did we do?
Unbelievable. So our revenues in just donations and per seat giving for this last year ended up being about 4x where we were at in the previous year. Off to an unbelievable start. Already today, we had an anonymous donor come forth last night and inform us that they're willing to do a $2 million match for the month of July.
Whew,
we go raise $2 million. We're going to have $4 million at the end of July, and what a way to kick off. And the momentum's palpable, and I can't believe the support. And it's longtime donors that have been committed that are doubling down. And it's new donors that are coming out saying it's time that I get involved, and they're doing so in droves and in significant ways, and it's building a lot of momentum. So we were able to do unbelievably well on our ticket goals. We are we are like teens of tickets away from being sold out for basketball already. We're already sold more season tickets for football than we did the entire year last year. Exciting stuff, and hoping that we sell a bunch of concert tickets for Cole Swindell. That's part of the celebration party too. So did incredibly well. I have high expectations. They often don't get exceeded. In this case, we exceeded a lot of those goals, and that was tribute to the team and their hard work.
I know one question, one more, because like right now, obviously, as you've detailed, fundraising and ticket sales, like all of that is through the roof. In some cases, it's unprecedented. As we look at the long-term strategy, there's a lot of worry about, okay, how sustainable is. We're talking to Brad like about sustainability. There's some worries about runaway spending. What's kind of the long-term strategy of making sure that doesn't happen? Because you're obviously raising tons of money. There's obviously the Protect College Sports Act. Like, what are kind of the strategies as far as making sure that you're not draining the well dry in the first couple of years?
Yeah, I think there was I think the well's deeper and wider than we realized. And so I think that there is more there, and we can grow this from a revenue standpoint. I know we 4x 25. I think we can 2x that. Like, I think that there is substantial growth, and we will hit a point where we're there, but I don't think we're close to there at this point. However, we're not going to catch our competitors by spending frivolously. Like, we have to spend every dollar smarter than our competition. If we can stretch every dollar to 2 or 3, now we're really cooking. And that needs to be the place we need to be. Also, if we're able to exceed goals, that money needs to go into long-term sustainable stuff that can help spin off things. We also have to invest, if we get this $4 million, we have to take some of that and put that into projects that will generate revenue for the future. Premium spaces, things that continue to spin off. So it's all part of a comprehensive plan, and yes, we need money. Yes, we want to develop as much as we can, and certainly there's costs that are one-time costs. Rev share, NIL, that's all in this year, and we have to redo it next year. But there's things that we can establish and put in place that can generate further revenue, and I think we have to expand and get really, really good and elite in those spaces as well.
The university as a whole, just athletics, as an institution, there have been very many significant capital projects for quite some time.
Yeah.
But the ones that did take place were significant, so there was a lot of debt that came with those.
Yeah.
Like, what's the financial health of the athletic department? I mean, we're talking about fundraising and getting ready for a new era, and there's going to be some expenditures to get new signs and new logos in other places. But just what's the overall? How would you assess the health of the athletic department right now?
I think based off what we were able to do this year, I think we're going in very, very well. Like we'll have, we're projecting right now. I'm still waiting for all the numbers to come in, as people are still spending yesterday, and so got to see where we're at. But I'm projecting that we're going to have some that we can carry forward into this year. The key, though, to your point too, is we don't have a bunch of debt. And that's massive. We've got facilities, but for the most part, they're all paid off. There's some that we need to invest in, but a lot of the really expensive ones, football, basketball stuff, are in pretty good shape. And so that is helpful, as we're not trying to do, a new 12,000 seat arena or something like that. That's where you can really set yourself back. And we need to be strategic. We need to make sure we're investing. And one of the goals is not just to spend, but also to spend on really maintaining the facilities we have at a high level, and putting something in from a capital standpoint that is really just to maintain and keep those projects that we've invested a bunch in the past at a high level and current, rather than letting them kind of get to disrepair to where we now need to do something significant. So I think we have to invest across the board in keeping things up, but we also have to find ways where those can generate revenue in significant ways. And that's part of the concerts, that's part of premium seating, but there's other ways as well where we'll try and spin off revenue off of those facilities.
Yeah, you've kind of preempted my question a little bit, because the thing I've heard it every year for about the decade plus that I've been here in Cache Valley is, expanding Maverick Stadium, renovating, maybe even rebuilding the Spectrum. Obviously, Spectrum's, I think, 56 years old now. I guess, is there any sort of conversation, or is that just kind of where you need to maybe pool money elsewhere? Any of those kind of projects even being considered?
I don't think right now. I think we need to look for ways to upgrade those facilities, right? Like expanding Maverick right now, to me, doesn't make sense. Like until we're sold out every game for about 25 straight, why would we be expanding? Now, what we are sold out of is premium spaces. So we do need to look at, okay, what premium spaces can be offered and what amenities can we add on, because that's what people are thinking. Spectrum's interesting because, yes, there is this desire, and we've got a wait list, and we're going to sell out, and we got a wait list of about 1,000 people that we're not, probably going to be able to get to much of that wait list. But what a venue. And do we lose that? And so how can we enhance that experience in there and invest in the Spectrum without probably trying to rebuild something new? And I think there's lots of ways. We'll look at new things that impact fan experience. We've got a few things, but I got to get them buttoned up before I can get people's hopes too high.
Everyone keeps saying stuff about the sound system. I don't know. Down on the court it always sounded okay, but I've never really been down in the trenches figuring out exactly how that works, and that is a whole engineering project, getting sound to work.
Good news is I've got some connections with some really good sound people, and we're going to have them take a look. I think it's more about calibration than it is actually the system.
Yeah. Because when they got in there, it's fairly new, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fairly new. It's a good system. It's a long project, but we probably just, for a project like that, my dad's an audio engineer, so I know probably more about that than I should, and just enough to be dangerous. But really, you just have to walk it, and you have to walk it full. The mistake is you calibrate it when it's empty, and that's really difficult. So you have to have people that kind of walk it full. So fans continue to tell us if it's sounding bad in your section, but tell us your section and seat so that we can get
we got to figure it out
for that spot.
We need 10,200 volunteers for an afternoon of the Spectrum while we get this figured out.
We'll dial it in.
Yeah, definitely.
When we were talking to President Mortensen, he said that there's an attitude with this new Pac-12, all the institutions coming in, that it's anybody's to be on top. Really, even the legacy schools and even the new ones coming in, it's like anybody can win this league across whatever sport it is, because there's so many different dynamics now, and everybody's treating it like, yes, it has a lot of history, but it's also treating it like a new conference, approaching it with fresh eyes. What, in your view, makes Utah State positioned to be at the top of this new conference?
I think it's we have some advantages. Logan's one of them. Cache Valley's one of them. I talk to all our coaches. They're like, I get a recruit to campus. I don't lose that recruit. It's unbelievable. Our commitment, our student body, the way they turn out for games, the environment, the herd, and their impact. Those are massive things. I also think we've got momentum on our side. We've always been really, really good at punching above our weight. What if we put on a few pounds? Who could we knock out then, right? And that's what I want to see. I love that it's wide open, but I don't want it to be wide open. I want it to be us. I want it to be us in every sport we're participating in. and that's the goal. And I think it's doable. I think we've got under-tapped financial resources. We've got it. We have a huge alumni base down in the Wasatch Front. We've got to be down there. I keep telling Carter, our lead fundraiser guy, our chief revenue officer, I'm like, why? I don't want to see you in Logan. I can manage up here. Get down there. But like, there's this community rallies around. This community cares and is committed to the Aggies, and it matters. And when things matter, that's felt. And I think we have every bit as advantages, Gonzaga or Washington State or San Diego State or anybody, Boise State, anybody else. We have all the same advantages. We just have to execute better, and that's on me and my staff to put our coaches in position to be able to go chase those championships, and that's what we want to do.
You should start lobbying the state Congress for a front runner up here in Cache Valley.
Yeah.
Run that all the way up here from the Wasatch Front.
Whatever we got to do.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I want to wrap this up because I mentioned the Protect College Sports Act. That's kind of a big news. Like, people are trying to put guardrails. Like,
absolutely.
What do you see as kind of the future? Because there's questions whether or not this act in and of itself, it's kind of a second effort in and of itself. What do you kind of see as the future of maybe federal intervention in college sports, and can that kind of realistically be done to kind of rein in a lot of kind of what's starting to go off the rails with college sports?
Yeah, starting to go off rails, I think, is kind to our industry. We are teetering in a tough spot. I think something has to be done. I think this latest act is a better rendition, in my personal opinion. And that's nothing against the SAFE Act, but I think this is a even better version. It doesn't solve everything, but man, if we have 80% of a solution, shouldn't we be sprinting towards that thing?
Yeah, it'd be a little bit. It'd be better than nothing.
Like,
better than what's going on right now.
Yeah, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It's not a magic elixir, but it is. It fixes probably 80-85% of the problem. Let's sprint towards that, get that solved, and then we'll figure out the other 15%. And I think there's this idea of, like, at some point, and I get it, every time a bill comes out like that, and I get it, I do it here, I did it when I was at Tennessee, those bills come out, and my first reaction is, how does that impact me in my day-to-day? How does that impact Utah State? How does that impact the Aggies? At some point, we've got to set that aside, and we got to do what's best for the industry and what's best. Collegiate sports is awesome. It's incredible. Let's not foul it up, because we get so concerned, and trust me, nobody's I'm uber competitive. I just talk about how I want to win every Pac-12 championship there is, right? But, like, at some point, we got to do what's best for the sport and collegiate sports as a whole, and we've got to decide, this solves it, and it might positively impact me on 70%, and might negatively impact me on 30%. I got to deal with that and figure it out, and let's go towards a solution.
All right. Thank you so much, Cam. Or do you have one more question?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, an exciting day, kicking off a new era for Utah State.
Absolutely.
This is
exciting.
Awesome.
Exciting. Great crowd, and a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys being here and everything you do in covering us, and appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad to be on. Thanks for joining us.
All right, so that was athletic director Cam Walker. Really fun having a chat with him. A lot of fun, talking a lot of logistics. I feel like we talked a lot of because it's the off season. We also talked to Brad Mortensen, and when we talked to Bronco Mendenhall, we'll try and play that during the show. But just talking a lot, not necessarily a lot of Ben Jacobson was probably the most on the court discussion. I'm trying to talk to him about tactics and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, in his mind, he's probably thinking this guy's an idiot. I'm trying to be somewhere close to his level, and is he knows more in his left pinky about basketball than I do in my entire body. Yeah. But still, we got a little bit more about rotations and things like that with Ben Jacobson. But yeah, Cam Walker's interesting because he mentioned, the donation, the $2 million match of anonymous donors. So all donations in the month of July will be matched up to $2 million. So that's something that could be really big for Utah State. Big windfall, $4 million windfall if they can get the fundraising going in July. Then also talking about, what's, stuff with the facilities. Obviously, people always talk about
that was really interesting.
Are they going to expand Maverick Stadium? Sounds like the answer is definitely no. Are they going to, a new basketball arena or major renovation, that's something that people bring up of like saying, oh, it's about to happen like every single year since like 2005.
Yeah.
But it seems like, because again, there's a whole kettle of fish that you open up when you talk about renovating the Spectrum. But there are things, especially now, because as you talked about, they basically have sold out. You know, they're counting on their fingers and thumbs how many tickets they have unsold for season tickets.
Yeah, basketball is it's a premium venue and it's a sold out venue. Football isn't there yet; needs to get there. I'd be curious what plans they have in place to enhance premium seating for the football.
You think they build a whole new luxury box on either the
east side,
either the east side or the south side?
Yeah,
the east side's tricky because the sun comes right in there. But if they built it on the south side, it'd be a little bit smaller. But there is also a giant scoreboard there. So
curious what that would look like. But really interesting stuff. I think just the financial health of athletics and where they need to go, the momentum that has been building for fundraising and where they're at position to make this move into the Pac-12. Wasn't part of this interview. It was an off-camera discussion that we had with somebody else up there about logo changes. And nothing's been changed yet, but they're going to be in the process of swapping out logos all over the fields and the courts and things like that. That officially can begin as of today. It's still going to take some time to do, but that process is going to get started.
Yeah, they got to slice up all the fields, cut out the pieces of turf.
Sand down the court.
Yeah, literally sand down the court. With soccer, that's a trickier process because you got to take into account the natural grass that you got to figure out. But usually that's still just maybe cut out. Or since it's natural grass, maybe you just mow it a few more times.
Yeah, just mow it. Yeah, that's probably the easiest.
Yeah, so me thinking it was the hardest, that might actually be the easiest one. They've probably just let the grass grow and just naturally weed it out, so to speak.
Yeah.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll play the interview with Ben Jacobson. These are long interviews. This next one's about 20 minutes, so we're going to go long on a couple of segments here. We're going to try and cram as many of these in during our live portion. We will go to extra time. That'll be on the YouTube only, or if you're listening on podcast, it's going to be on podcast as well, so don't worry about having to switch away. We got to take a break so we can keep up with this. We'll also talk about a little bit on air about Walker Kessler, Jaxon Hayes. Big news coming out for the Utah Jazz today, but we have two really big things that are happening today. Tons of interviews and massive news about the Jazz. We'll cram as much as we can during the radio portion, but if you want to catch all of today's show, you can also head over to the Fan at KLGN on YouTube, where everything will be all at once, or again on the podcast feed as well if you're listening after the fact. No need to go anywhere else. But we will be here for a temporary break here on the Full Court Press.
Want the adventure without the payment? Live Young Rentals at Young Power Sports lets you rent the newest machines by the day or even just by the weekend. Call 435-755-7111, 435-755-7111 for Live Young Rentals.
So we're going to get into our interview with Ben Jacobson. I'm sorry, 8632. We will have the long interviews during the radio show because we want to help our radio listeners out. They will be available standalone on YouTube, but we are going to go extra time on the YouTube stream. So we've got some text rolling in on the Young Power Sports with Logan text line. We will get to those. We will get to the Jazz, Walker Kessler, a lot of other fun things.
Utah Mammoth.
They're
active today.
Yeah, so we will be getting into that as well. But we got to jump right in to our next interview, the one we did with Ben Jacobson. Really fun interview we did with him. I have to remember to play the right video file because I've got a bunch of them lined up here. So let's get into that. We'll kick right to break at the end of this because we're really crammed for time. But here's our conversation earlier today with Utah State men's basketball head coach Ben Jacobson.
All right, welcome everybody as we continue talking to all the bunch of different Utah State coaches and personnel as we're here at Utah State's event celebrating the entrance into the Pac-12. Here's KVNU and 106.9 The Fan, Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen. Here with Utah State men's basketball head coach Ben Jacobson. Good to talk to you again.
Yep, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
Big day. I mean,
It's a great day.
There's been a lot of big days here for Utah State in the last 6 months.
Yeah, a lot of big ones.
Or
yeah, I don't know, hard to fit all of that into 6 months. Like when else would that happen? And I mean that, right? In terms of the number of things that have happened.
Yeah, I mean, new university president, new athletic director, new basketball coach. Now we're into a new conference.
New softball coach.
Yeah,
New softball coach. New
Pac-12, you just mentioned it.
It's like it's like might as well start counting the things that aren't new. Like that, you might use less fingers and toes to count all those.
Yeah.
But what was it like for you? Because obviously there's several new coaches who are kind of coming in here at kind of the death of the Mountain West era for Utah State. Just kind of, what is your perspective on this? Where you've come in basically as a Pac-12 coach, but you have had to ride out kind of the rest of the Mountain West era. What's kind of been your perspective on that?
Yeah, I don't know that I've got much in the way of Mountain West perspective. I guess is when we got the job 3 months ago, it was immediately about the roster and getting starting a course with the guys that were here. And then putting that roster together, and so all of our thoughts were on the Pac-12, right? So when we got here, we knew the Pac-12 was coming, and now the teams from the Mountain West that are moving over, all of us that are moving over to the Pac-12, taking a look at those teams, but knowing that they were going to be going over as well. So, I've watched those teams play. Ali Farouk-Manesh, of course, is coaching at Colorado State and is a former player of ours at Northern Iowa. And so I watched as many games as I could of his. So I've seen his team play quite a bit. I've known a number of the other head coaches in the Mountain West, over the years. So I've watched their teams play. But, outside of that, I guess our thought process in terms of roster and schedule and all the things we're doing has been geared toward the Pac-12.
As you look, how much connection did you have with Mountain West? Because obviously in Northern Iowa for a long time, maybe brief contact in like a non-conference game every now and again? Yeah,
there was a little bit of that over the years. It wasn't an every year thing where we played somebody from the Mountain West, but over the course of the 20 years, we would have played a handful of the teams. We didn't play everybody. We didn't play San Diego State. We didn't play Boise. I know both those guys well, so I've watched their teams play, but we didn't play either of those teams. But we played Nevada. We played Colorado State, long enough ago. So again, we've played a couple of teams, but not a ton of familiarity.
With this move into the Pac-12, obviously there's, besides the stat change with the conference itself, this is coaching change too. So it's maybe a little bit hard to really tell, but recruiting-wise, like what has that meant for you when you're out there trying to put your roster together? Like, this is the conference that we're going to. This is the opportunity that is now ahead of us. Like what? But it's also kind of like this is a new coaching staff, so it's a different pitch anyway. But just having that behind you now with the Pac-12 conference, like what has that meant to you and your staff as you've not only put this roster together, but also you're looking at high school kids or others for next season? Right. What's that pitch been like for you?
Yeah, piecing all of that together has been our conversations have certainly surrounded the things that you mentioned, and then having been in the Missouri Valley Conference and at Northern Iowa for a long time, you have a really good idea of which players are going to do well in the Missouri Valley Conference, right? And which players are going to do well non-conference and postseason play, NCAA tournament, like. I've got that's where our background is. So you've got a really good idea of what that looks like. So balancing that with the things that you mentioned. Watching some film of the Mountain West teams. Watching a little bit of Gonzaga. We played Washington State 2 years ago. So I've got a little bit of an idea of Washington State. Oregon State's got a new head coach. They have not played Texas State, so there's enough there's enough in there with some new coaches. What we've talked a lot about is what we are looking for, and for us, from a basketball standpoint, the skill level very important, the ability to handle the ball, pass the ball, shoot the ball, and have that at multiple positions, and if we can, all the way through our center. And there's for sure you got to have it in your backcourt, right? You got to have it with your point guard, and you got to have it with your other guards. You really like to have it with your small forwards, your power forwards, and if you can get it again all the way through your center. So that's one, and then two, looking for good young guys that are going to be a great fit. A great fit for us as a staff, but a great fit for Utah State, and so those two things didn't change from what we were doing in terms of recruiting over the past really 20 years in terms of what we're looking for. But then you've got to factor in what you mentioned. You're going into the Pac-12, right? And that league is going to be different than what the Mountain West was, and it's going to be different than what the Missouri Valley was. So that's been a part of our conversations, is trying to get a handle on that piece. So we're looking for the same things, right? But we've got to get a really good handle on what we need from a talent standpoint.
And do you feel like you've been able to have conversations with different guys that maybe you weren't able to have before at Northern Iowa?
Oh,
like you've been able to have conversations and get indoors where before you politely wouldn't have gotten in.
Yes, yeah, that has certainly been a part of it. Yeah, with what's happened here at Utah State, right, the things that our fans are very familiar with and that they've been a big part of, right? There's a reason that our basketball program has had so much success. It's been coaches have been very good, players have been terrific. The support has been off the charts. Right? The spectrum is one of a kind. The student body is one of a kind. So, those things are things that we've talked a lot about in recruiting. As soon as we talk with somebody, all right, we're going to send you a couple of clips of the spectrum. And then the next conversation or the text that comes back is like, Coach, that's crazy. And so those things have been in place. Those things open some doors with recruits and their families that maybe weren't able to open some of those same doors.
So you talk about, having talent for the Pac-12 and getting these players, even getting some players maybe you weren't able to get at Northern Iowa. When you look at the roster as a whole, 14 out of 15 slots filled. I mean, yep. LeBron's a free agent. I think he's got some eligibility.
He's got a couple years left.
But as you look at the whole roster, you pretty much know what the roster is going to be.
I'd rather have Jordan if we're going to get into the conversation. I'm a Jordan guy.
I mean,
he also has years left.
It's true.
He's also a little old, maybe.
I'd still take Jordan.
I think he could probably still do some things.
But as you look at this roster, maybe comparing it to the strength it has against Pac-12 teams, like last year's team was really athletic, incredibly versatile. Yeah. Didn't have as much size, but you give and take what you got. What are the biggest strengths of this roster overall do you feel like are Pac-12 level and are going to separate you from not just Pac-12, but obviously nationally, getting the NCAA tournament, the things that are going to help you guys win a lot of those key games?
Yeah, I would start it with our leadership with Mason and with Carson, and Will Hornseth is a guy that I coached at Northern Iowa, and so I've been around Will for a handful of years already, and he's got a really good way about him. Solomon Callahan he's just a basketball junkie and a guy that's so much fun to be around, and he leads by example. And we've got some other guys that are doing a good job in that space, but it starts with Mason and his mentality. So I feel great about our leadership. I feel great about our competitive spirit. Those two things have to be in place. If anytime you're talking about, no matter what league you're in, anytime you're talking about winning a regular season championship or winning a conference tournament championship, playing in the NCAA tournament, winning NCAA tournament games, your leadership's got to be really good, and the camaraderie, the locker room's got to be really good. So feel great about those two things. From a roster standpoint, different type of versatility than last year's team. I've watched 4 or 5 full games of last year's team, so I've got some sense for what the lineup was like and the versatility of that group, and it was tremendous. Maybe a different kind of versatility. I feel like our group of guys up front, a couple of them very skilled, a couple of them really shoot it, even though they're 6'10", 6'11", guys that are going to be good on the three-point line. Pretty rugged with Carson and with Will. Connor Turnbull is a guy who's 6'11", he's long, he blocks shots, he's very good defensively on the block, but he's got a good skill level. I feel like that group is going to be one that can be a real positive for us. So some versatility there. Kingston Tosi, just by himself, has got a lot of versatility. He's a guy that you can play a little smaller. He can be your biggest guard on the floor, and technically you're 4, but you'd be playing with 4 perimeter players. But he's got enough size, and he's physical enough, and he's competitive enough to be able to do that and play 3 smaller guards with him. So that's where I say we've got some versatility. It just it's going to be different than the versatility that last year's team had.
Yeah, maybe just kind of a balance of skills. Where last year guys were playing like 1 through 4, 1 through 5, maybe still a little bit, but it's more of a diversity of skill that we're seeing. Like I said, shooting bigs and guys like Kingston and Carson. They've got a lot of versatility within like the wing and power forward position.
Yeah, that'd be and then I would maybe extend that to the backcourt a little bit and. Mason, as we've seen, Mason, he hasn't played the point, but he's handled the ball, and he's in the action all the time, and he's got a lot of versatility by himself. Carson's got I know he played at the 5 last year some, and we're going to see if we can play him more at the power forward position this year. But we know he can back up. We know he can play some minutes at the 5 if we would need that. But again, we're going to see if we can play him more at the power forward. And Will Hornstead's got the ability to play the 4 or the 5. Colin Mulholland, same thing. We think he can play the 4, he can play the 5. And then I talked about Kingston, So, that versatility I think will be something that'll be good for us.
I think with Mason, and I may have asked you a little bit about this, but he's not really been a point guard in his career, but obviously said there are point guard aspect. I mean, as a shooting guard, there's always some overlap with the point guard when you're playing that position. You've had guys like AJ Green, Trey Campbell, last year. How much does he kind of, how much does he maybe fit what they do, or how much is he having to kind of move toward you, or are you moving your system toward him? Kind of how is that working out as far as him becoming kind of this lead guard and maybe running the offense a bit more, almost like a point guard, even if he's playing that shooting guard position?
Yeah, we're working through some of that right now. Mason and I have spent a lot of time together on the court. There's some things that he's wanted to work on, whether it's some footwork or some things with his three-point shot, playing in the pick and roll, and just getting a lot of reps to be able to make those reads better in terms of hitting the pocket or throwing a hook pass. So he and I spent a lot of time on the court the last 3 weeks, and we've spent quite a bit of time watching some film of some different players. Trey, maybe we haven't watched Trey yet, but AJ we were talking about the other day, and those guys, AJ and Trey played the point for us, but they were guys that, AJ averaged 16, 17, 18 points a game, maybe his last 2 years. And Trey, I think, was our leading scorer this past year at 13, 14 points a game. So similarities that way. Right? Yeah. Again, Mason hasn't been a full-time point guard, but he's got the ball in his hands a lot. And that's something that I know is going to continue, right? And then it's just figuring out here as we go through the summer, okay, what are the best lineups going to be? Where is it going to fit Mason best to be most efficient and most effective? I know with the ball in his hands, right? But where exactly, and how does that all structure? Yeah. So he's going to be in the middle of everything that we do, but still learning about what the best lineups are going to be and where and when and how in terms of offensively getting some things structured.
NCAA. Division I Council recently approved this 5 years, or five years of eligibility in 5 years. Your thoughts on that and how that affects your structure of your roster? Guys aren't going to redshirt. You've got a lot of mouths to feed, so to speak. Guys will want to try to play and get on the court. You can't just say you're going to be on the bench for a while. There may be opportunities to bring them back on. How do you manage that, and just your initial reactions to how that potentially helps your sport specifically?
Yeah, the first part of it, and the one of the exciting pieces is Carson gets another year. Will Hornseth gets another year tacked on.
Pretty much the whole roster seems to get another year, with a couple exceptions.
Yeah, so a guy like Mason has already been in college 5 years when you count the one we're coming into. Okay, so it won't impact Mason. A couple guys redshirted: Solomon Callahan, Colin Mulholland. They redshirted, so they won't tack on another year. They've got 2 years left. So we get some of both.
And those guys too,
yeah, Tosi and Bo redshirted, so that's going to count as one of their 5 years. So they would have 4 years either way. Right? So we're going to catch a little bit of both. We get a guy like Carson, a guy like Will, and I may be not thinking of another guy or two, but
I think AJ, does he get another year?
AJ does. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Feels like half and half is kind of
yeah.
with the
There's
roster.
3 or maybe 4 that will get a year because of the 5-for-5, and then there's some guys that won't get a year tacked on. So to me, that's where it starts: is the opportunity and the excitement of Carson, Will, AJ. Those guys that do tack another year on, and then I think we're going to have to go through it. To be able to maybe get to the last part of your question of, okay, how are you going to manage this? Because now you've got some young guys. That right now Jax and Jordan are our 2 freshman guards, and they're both doing well, right? We also have older guys on our roster, right? And so as we get into September, October, as we get ready for November, somebody's going to beat somebody out, right? If it's even, or the older guys beat out the younger guys, before the 5-for-5. You redshirt Jax, you redshirt Jordan. It makes sense to everybody. It makes sense to them, makes sense to their families, makes sense as a program. We've loved to do that over the years, and we've done a lot of that, and I'd like to be able to do it here, except there's no more redshirting. Right? So I think we're going to have to get into it and get through it a little bit. In September and October, we'll determine, maybe Jax or Jordan, maybe they beat somebody out. That's still to be determined as we go forward. But that's where I feel like it's going to come into play the most, is guys that are true freshmen that, hey, these are good players, and they're going to be really good for us at Utah State. Normally, with the way the roster is constructed, they would take a redshirt year, a couple guys would graduate, and now they get going with their playing career. We're going to just have to see how that plays out here in the first year.
Because normally the instinct would be, well, you got to play these guys maybe a little bit, or there's a threat that they're going to transfer. But the new reality is, like, anybody's going to you have to assume everybody will transfer at the end of the season. If you get to keep guys back, that's gravy. So it's not like you have to try to placate some guys to give them some minutes here and there for fear that they might leave.
Right, and that's a part of a lot of the conversations. And you mentioned it. The threat of guys leaving in the spring. It's the world we live in now, and so going through that the first year and going through it the second year, and now got a really good handle on it. Our job is to make this place and our program a place they want to stay. That's our job, right? And stay for the right reasons. And so we're going to work hard at that piece of it, and not have it be a thing where, oh man, we better get this guy in a couple games because otherwise he might leave. I thought about that a lot the first year when the portal came in. I thought about it less the second year. I don't think about it anymore. Our job is to coach the guys, right? And their development as young people, their development as basketball players, their development on campus and in the classroom. That's our job, and that's where our focus is. And then have the right locker room and have the right guys here so they feel good about their development. And sometimes that means you're not playing as much as you would like. And maybe that's when you're younger, and maybe it's when you're a year or two in, but you know your day is coming. And you believe in Utah State, and you believe in what we're doing, and you're going to stay to see it through. So that's the approach that we're going to take, and doesn't mean everybody's going to stay. There's going to be some guys that go, but we're going to work hard to have this be a place where guys understand and really believe in. And the guys we're recruiting, they talk about development a lot. They want to be in a place where they're going to develop, and so we're going to work hard at that piece of it.
Yeah. So I know you've got one more spot in the. You plan on filling that 15th roster spot? No, some teams do, some teams don't.
Yeah, we'd like to. Yeah, we're waiting on one thing to see how it plays out, and if that doesn't go the way we want it to, then there's kind of one or two things that are on the radar. So we would like to. I just don't know who it's going to be yet.
Yeah, obviously right now, so you can't name names. All this
There's
stuff.
a little bit of that.
Yeah, but then with the schedule, I think there's 3 unannounced slots if we're including the Acrisure series and all the reports there. Kind of how close are you to filling some of those last few non-conference slots? And kind of how difficult is it to fill those where most everybody may already have their schedule filled, but you've got 3 extra games that a lot of teams
to fill.
Yeah, a lot of teams don't have that same number of non-conference games to even allow.
Yeah, with the conference schedule being 16 games means we've got to get 16 in the non-conference, which is quite a bit. We've added a couple maybe since the last time you guys had looked at it. We're at 15 now, and I think the 15th contract is back. I hope I don't jump ahead and ruin one of them. But
no, that's always the tricky thing is you think you have it and then you don't.
But we're either at 15 or we're within a contract going back and forth of being at 15. So we've got one left to get. It's a home game. With the 2 games in Texas, the 2 games in Palm Springs, the road games we already know. We're returning the game to Memphis. We've started a home and home at New Mexico. They'll be back here next year. And then the BYU series that I know you guys have talked about at BYU, and then we'll play down in Salt Lake. So those 3 road games we know. We know the 4 neutral site games. We've got 8 home games in place, and we're just waiting to get what would be our 9th home game and our 16th game.
Have they figured out a date for the Memphis, or is that kind of waiting until everything else gets filled out and then maybe you'll figure out that
it's
date?
going to be in February again as the game was here last year. It's going to be a February game.
Wow. Awesome.
Yep.
Should be a lot of fun.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for coming on. This is an exciting era for Utah State. Moving into the new conference, and a lot's happened in the last 6 to 8 months around here.
Yeah.
But having you part of this transition is exciting too. So best of luck this summer and continuing with your roster and put your schedule together. So best of luck.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thanks so much, Coach.
Yep.
All right, welcome everybody.
Head on over to Napa Auto Parts. They got the Napa Blue 5-gallon buckets for only $4.99. You can get SureCan gas cans that are in stock and on sale. If you want the OE filter for your diesel, Mopar and AC Declo filters are in stock now. Head on over to Napa Auto Parts. They got locations from Preston all the way down to Providence. Again, at Napa Auto Parts. So we're going to wrap up the radio portion of our show. Those of you listening on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan, we'll be here for another couple minutes. Those of you listening on the podcast or on YouTube, we'll be here for a lot of extra time, more interviews. But to wrap up the radio portion, we're going to talk about Walker Kessler, that trade that went down. We got a lot of texts. We'll probably get to the texts in extra time, but just want to reserve this time for kind of mine and Eric's reactions. The Jazz trading Walker Kessler for 2 unprotected first-round picks from the Lakers. They're trading him to the Lakers for unprotected first-round picks in 2031, 2033, and then pick swaps in, was it 2028 and 2029? Or 2027 and 2020 or 2026, or I forget. Two more
years.
Pick swaps in a couple other alternating years. I forget exactly which ones, but the Jazz getting a really big pick haul, but unfortunately at the cost of a guy that there was a lot of promise and a lot of expectations for. But we had long voiced our worries about overpaying Walker Kessler, talking about his skill set. Also the fact that this is someone who hasn't, if you're going to pay him a ton of money, you got to make all-star games, maybe, a guy who's supposed to have all defensive potential. He hadn't reached that yet. So the Jazz were essentially faced with potentially overpay and make a big mistake. Does this guy reach that potential that he'd kind of shown but hadn't attained? Or they managed to get this massive pick haul and, maybe avoid that mistake.
Right.
But yeah, and so they get that pick haul and maybe potentially dodge a bullet.
Well, yeah, we would have loved to have Walker Kessler still in the Jazz uniform. I think a lot of Jazz fans liked him. He wasn't bad for the organization. He wasn't weird in the locker room or in the media or in the public. He was a great guy, and he looked like he would be a great fit. And we were super excited to see him and his future for Utah. But he wanted to be paid like an all-star, and he wasn't. Might he get there someday? Maybe. But Utah had to be coy with how they did this, and they got a lot in return from a guy who was ready to walk away for nothing. So Utah is not just in a rebuilding mode anymore. They have picks to keep them sustain success in the future for more talented players as the season and the years go by.
Yeah, so that's something to keep an eye on. I got to make sure that we're not accidentally going over time.
Yeah, we're over. So more on the overtime on YouTube.
All right, we are back on YouTube. Well, that I might have peeked out the YouTube. I know we had one text in asking to kind of turn up the volume on the YouTube stream, so hopefully the audio is coming through all right there. Just trying to balance things out because sometimes it peaks, and I don't want to do that when we start. I know we're both kind of soft speakers, and then suddenly we're really loud. So just for moments, I know.
Sometimes with our interviews too, our interviewers were.
Yeah. Well, the problem was my mic was like kind of really like jacked up really high. So when I spoke, it was almost peaking. And then Cam Walker is speaking kind of like how I normally do, where it's like, very soft spoken. But that's just an audio engineering problem, which I guess Cam Walker, he knows a lot about audio engineering.
Yeah.
Right? Or has a lot of connections there.
I knew that. His dad is an audio engineer, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us for Extra Time. Again, if you're listening on the podcast feed, pretty much nothing changed there. And on YouTube, just had a brief little break. I want to jump into some of these texts we got on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. Want to make sure.
2444.
Yeah, send in a text before the show saying Pac-12, here we come! 3 exclamation points.
Yes.
I love seeing all the excitement around campus today, and I'm excited to hear the interviews you guys were able to do. The celebration sounds like a pretty good excuse for a 2-hour show to me. And yes, it was a very good excuse for a 2-hour show.
Lots of content today.
We'll see how long this extra time goes. It's commercial free, pretty much. It's commercial free full court press during this extra time. 9315 saying you guys need to have a contest with the lesser things in their donation amount, and at the end of the month you draw out a hat to see which person that donated to Utah State by city picture proof on the text line gets to be a guest show host at one point in time.
Okay, thanks 9315. There's another one too. I'm glad you got your priorities straight. I like some of those other radio stations today that busted in with breaking news about something that's not near as important. USU first, last, and always. Go Aggies.
Which was the other breaking news?
I don't know. But look, it was fun being up there talking to the coaches and Cam Walker, President Mortensen. A little bit of an audio thing with President Mortensen. We're working on getting that addressed, and hopefully we can get that played here, or at least some clips of our conversation with him. But yeah, exciting time in the history for Utah State as the Aggies move into the Pac-12. A couple other texts coming in, 6391. On top of the USU and Jazz news, the Mammoth also traded for a U.S. Olympian, plus Jaylen Brown was just traded. Big news day for sure.
Yeah, we were playing one of the interviews, and Eric just said the Celtics traded Jaylen Brown for, was it Paul George?
George.
And I was just sitting here for like an entire interview recording, just like I mean, it's no skin off my back.
It took
but like
you a while to process.
Yeah, I was
all
just
that.
like, what idiocy. Like, maybe I got to look into it a little bit more and maybe digest that. But again, it's not something that really, it's Eastern Conference. It's teams I don't root for, teams I don't. I mean, I watch the 76ers and Celtics, especially in the playoffs, because they can be really exciting teams. Joel Embiid, for all the antics, is usually a fun player to watch.
Yeah.
But as long as he's not foul baiting the entire time. But
that's a big, hefty payroll for Philadelphia.
True, but like Jaylen Brown, like why are the Celtics trading Jaylen Brown for basically an inferior, like an old Paul George? Young Paul George is worth it.
Well, they also get a bunch of future picks.
That's true. And so but Celtics are supposed to be trying to win now. Are they punting on their championship window?
Right. They should be in a win now mode.
Like they made it to the final. They won the championship with Tatum and Brown. Are they just punting on that and going for the next, going for another like 3-year type thing? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, a lot of news today in the NBA. The Sixers also lost Tobias Harris. He's going to San Antonio. Jazz also picked up Jaxon Hayes as I don't know if he's totally the Walker Kessler replacement.
Oh, he's not. Like they're paying him less than they're paying Yusuf Nurkic. So the Jazz. So that was the other side. Like the Jazz trade Walker Kessler, but then they pretty much shored up their center rotation today. They'd already re-signed Yusuf Nurkic. They signed Jaxon Hayes, who
they have a bunch of money for mid-level exception. Yeah. They still have a lot of money to play with and a few more roster spots.
Yeah, so they're probably going to maybe look for some veterans at some of these other positions. The front court's kind of stacked at this point because you have two centers. Like maybe they sign a emergency depth center, or they're probably going to sign some point guard. They have
other guard.
They have two point guards on the roster, plus Darren Peterson, who may try and do some playmaker role. I don't know if he'll ever be the point guard on the lineup card, but you like to have at least 3 players at each position if you can pull it off, or 3 players who are capable of playing that position. Small forward and shooting guard, you just kind of get 6 players that can play, 6 or 7 players that can play either of those. Then you got 3 centers, 3 point guards, some overlap with power forward. So the Jazz have enough spots to fill some of those last spots, but depending on how they use this mid-level exception, they could get somebody who, when they're trying to do win now, instead of finding a John Lucas III to play their last point guard spot, or picking up Chris Dunn off the streets, they're not going to find prime Chris Paul. They're probably not going to sign LeBron James. They're not going to sign marquee free agents, but can you get yourself a pretty solid veteran player who can come in and maybe he'll end up playing over some of the young guys? Maybe they bring in somebody who plays over a still developing Ace Bailey, but is the kind of veteran that over time Ace Bailey learns from, gets some minutes, maybe starts shaving some minutes off of that veteran player, and then in a year or two's time, you end up getting the best versions of these young players who have to earn their spot in the rotation.
5338 texting in, even bigger trade news for the Mammoth. You should go over that.
I'm going to need some time to digest that, and I'm also
they've been
just
busy.
Yeah, I'm also just like I grew up with the NBA. Because I was having this conversation earlier. I was talking with somebody about kind of this news, and I was like, I watch the Mammoth, I follow the Mammoth, but there's a part of me that is just still learning kind of the dynamics of, and understanding the NHL as a league, understanding the off-season dynamics, the trades, knowing players that aren't on the Mammoth and what their value is. Because I have a lot of that kind of institutional knowledge about the NBA and even the NFL, but I don't have that as much about the NHL, and that's why we keep having to bring in Adrian Denny to help teach us young idiots about the NHL. So we may not be able to get into that as much, but yes, understand there is a lot with the Mammoth.
They made a trade, a significant trade on draft day.
Yeah.
JJ Peterka on the way out, Sean Dursey on the move today, but some of the guys are getting back. Some people are super excited about it. I need to learn what the big news is. I'm not as familiar with some of these players. So yes, I recognize there were some big trades. The Mammoth have been active the last few days. We will get to it, but probably not going to get into too much detail today.
We've got
beyond what we've already just said.
We've got Utah State. We've still got probably another interview at least to play with Bronco Mendenhall. We've still got stuff to talk about with the Utah Jazz. Some more texts to get through as well. If you want to send in your text 435-339-0321. Your thoughts on any of the interviews, any of the Utah State stuff with the official move to the Pac-12 now. Any thoughts on the interviews? Or, as we've had a lot of texts in today, a lot about Walker Kessler and that trade. 8632 with several different texts. First one, this one came in kind of early on in the show, saying, I am naming my firstborn child Danny Ainge. This guy managed to turn a guy who played 5 games, averages 14 and 10 in his career, and has never been even been an all-star backup, into 4 first-round picks. Safe to say when Danny Ainge calls you to make a trade, say no because you were losing that trade. Also, the Hayes signing is sneakily great, not to mention he shot 100% from 3. He had a very strong season off the bench for the Lakers last year to get him at the price we did. The Jazz aren't done making big moves. And also adding Jaylen Brown, Maxey, and Joel, the 76ers will be the favorites in the East.
I don't know if I'm ready to crown the Sixers the favorites, but that's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah, the big key for the 76ers, and this is the key for everyone, it's teams are stacking their big 3. Like the Lakers, they're going with Luka, Walker Kessler, Austin Reeves. The 76ers, Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, that is a stacked big 3. Teams are getting that, and if the Warriors manage to pull off getting LeBron and AD, do they have Steph, LeBron, AD, and maybe even Draymond Green, and maybe at a discount, okay, you have your big 3, but as we have learned, you don't win a championship with a big 3. You win a championship by having good enough
solid 6.
You definitely need your big 3 or your big 2 at least. Who are your alpha players? Do you have that? The 76ers obviously have that. Joel Embiid's an MVP. Jaylen Brown's been a finals MVP. Tyrese Maxey is a fantastic player. But who do you have 4 through 9? Those guys will win you the championship, because every contending team in the NBA has a big 2 or big 3 that matches to, maybe not 1 for 1 across every single player, but they have a big 3 or a big 2 that is as good as the 76ers with Joel, Jaylen, and Tyrese Maxey. They all have that alpha star power, if you're a contender.
Yeah.
They have that. List off the contenders, and Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Steph Curry, whichever teams you think are contender, you can find that alpha player. And they're the Robin to the Batman. But who do you have 4 through 9?
Yeah, because VJ Edgecombe really surprised a lot of people last year.
Yeah, do you have more guys like that? That's a big key. The Knicks won their championship partly because Jalen Brunson, but he had some really iffy shooting games. So guys like Karl Anthony Towns, so I know he's getting paid like he's an alpha player.
OG Anunoby,
Yeah.
there was a very strong case that he should have been at Finals MVP.
Yeah, so like there were a lot of players who, Mitchell Robinson, a lot of the plays he was making where he was going toe-to-toe with Wemby in some of those key games, like getting rebounds, like pushing him out of the way and getting key rebounds to help close out some of those games. So your stars are obviously important, and they're going to win your Finals MVP, and they're going to be making a lot of the big shots. Brunson did make a lot of those big shots late.
Yes.
But you need those guys 4 through 9, which includes 2 starters, to make the plays that will win you a championship. Your stars are going to get you to the playoff. They're going to be your floor raisers and even ceiling breakers. And this is why we talk about with the Jazz, like they're putting so much money into their top 4 players. Walker Kessler would have been like, your top 5 players might all be getting these massive contracts in the next couple of years.
That were several years out. And then it's like, how do you assemble the rest of your roster when you're committing so much money to all of these literally big guys? And how do you fill out the rest of your rosters? It was going to be really complicated for you.
Yeah, and I think that's part of where, like, as sad as I am, and my initial reaction to Walker Kessler leaving was genuine sadness, sorrow. That's what I put out on social media as some gif of somebody crying. It's like, that is my reaction. He is somebody that I've loved. He's somebody that I wish would have stayed on the Jazz. But they are also mixed in this just turmoil, potion brew of emotions, is also kind of this weird feeling of relief, because there were some legitimate concerns about paying Walker Kessler that much money, given, as we've talked about, the stuff that he hasn't yet proven, the concerns about his positional archetype in general, where players of his archetype are not necessarily worth that kind of money if you're chasing a championship. Are they worth that money just in a vacuum because they're good enough to put people in seats? Yeah, Walker Kessler's worth that kind of money in that sense. But for winning a championship, which is what Jazz fans want desperately more than anything, they're not the Chicago Bulls who are, content with just mediocrity. They won a championship. They tore down this whole, facade they had with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert so they could win a championship. So in that sense, there's this relief that, like, hey, the Jazz are maintaining some flexibility. They're kicking the can down the road with the centers they have. Like Jusuf Nurkic and Jaxon Hayes are competent stopgaps. They will get the job done at the center position. Jusuf Nurkic is going to give you those points, those rebounds.
JJJ, and they have Lauri Markkanen, and they have Kyle Filipowski. Like, they have big bodies.
Yeah,
like,
and they can experiment.
If they have to, they can just throw one big 7-footer after another, or 6'10" guy or bigger after whomever big guy that they're trying to go up against. Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Joel Embiid, whomever. So they may not have like somebody who's as good or better than those guys, but they can at least throw volume at them until next year. We'll see what happens in the draft, and we'll see what happens in free agency and what Utah wants to do in the trade deadline, because they've got assets that they have an ability to make deals if they need to get the guy they want to help their roster. Yeah, so it gives them flexibility. And through all this, my thought has been, man, it's got to be hard to be someone in some of these guys in these positions. Not to, like, for a long time, you're with these guys. You're with these guys in your organization a lot. And it would be hard not to get emotionally attached. Like, we really like this guy. He's good in the community. We like how he performs on the court. We like how he interacts. And we'd love to keep him. And so it would be hard to be like, just take emotion out of it and just say, does this fit? Do the dollars make sense? Or can we still try to find a way to keep this guy around? And for the Jazz, they just tried. They took emotion out of it. So we realize this is what you want, but this is what we're willing to pay. And if we can't come together, then let's find a situation where you can get to where you want to go. And that's what they did. But that would be hard. I mean, we all like Walker Kessler. He's a great guy. He's a really good player. But at the end of the day, you can only pay what you can pay. When you look at your long-term plan, does this really make the sense for your team? And just locking up that much money and that type of player, does that really make sense for the organization now and for its future.
Yeah, and I think with where the front court is, keep bringing up JJJ and having Lowry Markin and Kyle Filipowski there, like the ability to experiment with, because, Nurkic and Hayes, those are your centers. Nurkic probably starts. Hayes comes off the bench as a center. But, like, say you wanted to say, like, hey, how does maybe Jaren Jackson Jr. at center and Lowry Markin at power forward, Ace Bailey, Darren Peterson, does that lineup work? Is JJJ comfortable playing center? Does he want to play more power forward? Let's say that he plays center with Markkanen. Say he really likes that dynamic, playing center, like maybe both of them are kind of sharing power forward and center duties to some degree, but maybe he's not comfortable, and you learn that and still have the flexibility to go find a center. Because if you bring in Walker Kessler, it's like, look, this is what we have, and this is what we're doing now.
We're committed to this. Yeah.
And could that have worked? If it works and it pays off, then it's fantastic. And it's something that I wish could have worked. But, like, we saw this when Derek Favors and Enes Kanter were playing together. They couldn't make that work, but they were, like, kind of locked into trying to force it to work.
Yeah.
Two guys who, one of them was a power forward when he was drafted, but moving to the modern NBA, Favors kind of had to become a center. And, it was something that didn't really work there. But now you have flexibility to learn. These next few years, they're going to be about ramping up, but it's about, like, I think we were talking about this yesterday or a couple of days ago, like, there are things you have to learn. Jaren Jackson Jr. has played, 2.5 games with the Jazz, basically?
Yeah,
I think he was in
much.
there for 3 games, sat out for like half of a couple of those. So you need to figure out, how does he work? Does he work at all? Does he and Lowry Markkanen work? Are we going to get 2 years into this, realize that just on the court, some players just don't work together? Because sometimes that happens, and then, like, okay, we got to move off of one of these guys. That's something that can potentially happen, and this is the time where you learn it, and you don't want to be locked into these massive contracts. It's like, say, Walker Kessler and Jaren Jackson Jr., what if that pairing just didn't work? Suddenly you're locked into this massive contract, and when you have pairings of guys who don't work, then it becomes hard to trade those guys because they're not looking good on the court, and their trade value goes down. So this is the game that the Jazz went with. They went with one where they had to give up a good player. They got a massive haul for him, but I think in the end, if you remove the emotions of it, because again, Jazz fans really liked Walker Kessler, but once you remove the emotions from it, it is, unfortunately, I think, the smarter move, as much as I didn't want them to make this move.
Yeah.
It is. I just have to concede that it ends up being the smarter move for several different reasons. Now, if Walker Kessler turns out to be an all-NBA center, we could look back on this in 3 or 4 years, realize it was a mistake. But I think when you look at everything with the roadmap the Jazz are putting out, with what they were able to get back for trading Walker Kessler, not letting him go for nothing, I think in the end this was a really good decision for the Utah Jazz. And for Walker Kessler, it's fantastic for him as well. He gets to go play with Luka Doncic, who's going to make him look like an all-NBA center with how many lobs he's going to be throwing to him.
Yeah. It's a pretty good deal for him. And he knows it's somewhere where they want him and they're willing to pay for what he thinks he's worth. A couple more texts from 8632. Coach Jacobson is a Jordan over LeBron guy. I don't like having a non-ball knower as our head coach. # Jordan pushed off.
Yeah, that was interesting. We were talking about LeBron. That was
funny.
kind of a terrible add-in by me, but we got a fun little moment out of it.
9 through and 5. I'm still not sure what you're.
Well, he says, I meant to having a
propose.
contest for the month of July, seeing how. So he's talking about the donor is going to match $2 million. So he's saying fans of the show could send in screenshots of their donation for proof on the text line, and we draw a text number, and they get to be a guest host.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to leave that decision up to Eric.
Not going to happen.
Oh,
7994.
That was harsh.
7994. Key thing to know with hockey is similar to basketball, your bench and depth is important. The third line plays significant minutes and can be key to winning games. I hope that hockey becomes as big as a talking point as the NBA. It is much more entertaining from my point of view.
Yeah, like there are things when I look at hockey, like I am loving a lot. Like hockey is genuine. It is the most genuine sport that I've seen. And part of that just comes from when you're a smaller league, you're more genuine. Because I see this in motorsports where F1 is like, the NFL of motorsports. Or maybe the NFL is the F1 of, you could debate which one you think is bigger. But like in F1, all the stars are larger than life and you never get to see them. They're all media trained and all this other stuff. And even NASCAR to some degree, they're all media trained. They all, of course, sometimes NASCAR players will tell you what's what because it's a fiery sport. But then I watch things like IMSA, and it's like you can just, you have a general admission ticket, and you can kind of go walk up and next to the cars and whatnot. It's just down to earth, where nobody's big timing anybody. Everyone's just kind of there, and they're all there to have fun and be a part of the sport that they love. And the NHL kind of has that feel where it's certainly really big. It is a major sport. It is a big time sport. These guys are getting paid millions, but nobody is like full of themselves. And, these, they don't have these larger than life egos, and they're also not, there's not all this flopping or load management or all this other stuff. These guys are just playing with true passion for the game, and it's the only thing that, because in the NBA, NFL, there's passion for the game, but there's all this other stuff stacked on top of it.
Right.
The divas, the egos, the contracts, and all this other stuff. And for the NHL, and again, there is some aspect of that because it is a major sports league, and that some baggage is going to be there, but it's just a genuine sport. And that is something that I really love about the NHL that is kind of slowly dying amid the NBA and NFL, where those sports have grown so big that they have all this extra baggage with their players and with their coaches that the NHL is still kept intact. If the NHL gets really massive, unfortunately, it could suffer a similar fate. But I just love seeing the genuine passion and love of the game that you just still see in the NHL.
Yeah, it definitely exists. I think one of the things that's lacking for the NHL are just crossover stars who are recognizable for whatever it is that they're doing. And you don't see a ton of them in like major marketing campaigns. We saw a little bit of that.
Like you see a commercial about the NHL, and part of this may just be our ignorance of the NHL, or at least it's ignorance on my part when I see these commercials. Like, I have no clue who any of these people are.
Yeah.
Whereas in the NBA, they show you a commercial, and, well, that's Victor Wembanyama, and that's LeBron. And the NFL, even though in the NFL they have their helmets on all the time, well, a lot of times they'll be on their jersey, but even if they're not, like, you still, hey, that's Larry Fitzgerald, that's Tom Brady, that's, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, these other leagues, they do a fairly good job of highlighting and promoting their stars and making them recognizable.
Yeah, and even with Major League Baseball, like everyone knows Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, and long time Mike Trout and all these other players. Like,
so that is one of the things with hockey, with the NHL, that is a little bit lacking, is just their ability to really get their stars out there and let people understand who their stars are, see them in major marketing campaigns. We just don't see there are big personalities in hockey. We just don't see them outside of just watching hockey.
Yeah, and Utah is still like, and we're, at least I say we, but I don't want to speak for you, but like, I think we're in the same boat where it's like, we're just entering this, and it's not a world we've been a part of. And so we're kind of learning alongside everyone else in Utah about, obviously there have been NHL fans in Utah, and they're helping us get through this. Learning, but there's a lot to learn, because there's learning the rules, and then there's learning the culture of the sport.
Right.
Which is
not a lot of drama surrounding hockey. Where there's a lot of drama in the NBA.
Oh, there's so much.
For good or bad, it creates content and gets people talking about it.
Like, so-and-so unfollowed the team they played for on Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we children?
It's like a 24-hour news cycle just on that.
Yeah, it's nuts. 7994 saying hockey self-regulates flopping. A flopper just gets a slash on the calf, then he falls down for real.
Falls down for real.
Well, I think I remember seeing on a game where like a player got fouled, but then there was also like he got punished for embellishing it, and also got sent to the box. So it was like 4-on-4. Maybe I misremembered that, but I thought I remembered watching a game where a player was legitimately fouled, but they then said he embellished the contact and got sent to the penalty box for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, my goodness. And in soccer, that there is technically a yellow card for flopping, but it is so rarely utilized that there's, it's kind of like how there's technically a fine for flopping in the NBA, but it is very, very rarely used. At least exists, because that happened in the World Cup in soccer. But
you mentioned soccer. Let's transition and get to one of our other interviews. And today, big day for Utah State and for the athletics department at USU. Aggies moving into the Pac-12 officially today. And they had the big celebration up on campus. We had a chance to talk to Cam Walker, Brad Mortensen, Ben Jacobson, a lot of different coaches. And one of those was Manny Martins, head coach for the Utah State women's soccer, and certainly one of the premier sports and programs at Utah State over the last few years.
Man's built a dynasty
with what they've been able to accomplish. And so we got a chance to visit with him today about this transition and what it means to him and his staff and his players.
All right, hello everyone. It's KVNU and 106.9 The Fan. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen and Utah State soccer head coach Manny Martins. Thanks so much for joining us here on exciting day as we celebrate Utah State entering the Pac-12 officially now.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me, and yes, super exciting day. Obviously, it's been a minute since the announcement, and to build up to it, it's been exciting, and to be here today, crossing this initial finish line into the league has been great. Love the energy out here today.
Do you have to sort all of your old Mountain West and new Pac-12 gear? Make sure I'll wear this when I work out, but when we go out in public, we wear this one.
Yes, that's going to be a process going through.
Don't want to just throw a bunch of good clothes away just because it has a Mountain West logo, but you got to be careful what we wear.
We'll still use it within the facility.
So
what's been your assessment as you've had time to look at this and ramp up towards it? What does the Pac-12 look like as far as soccer is concerned for women's soccer, and in your specific world that you're concerned with? What does this mean to you and this your program and your athletes as you guys make this transition?
I think it's exciting because it's going to be a real strong conference. I mean, obviously the 5 schools coming in from the Mountain West, have all been very successful. Definitely in the time that I've been here, everyone's been, teams that have been in a tournament and been in finals and whatnot, but also the teams that were meeting in the conference. I mean, Washington State, historically they've been to a Final Four. Oregon State has been, a program that in the past has been to a Sweet 16, maybe even an Elite 8. Texas State is really strong. They've been really, really good in their conference. Gonzaga, just a couple years ago, they were very, very strong. So I think these are all programs that have experience competing at a high level and are going to make the conference really, really good.
You think that kind of helps because with Mountain West, and I mean, a lot of sports, I think soccer and volleyball, where you've had NCAA tournament teams, but a lot of times you've had to win the tournament, especially with soccer. Boise State a couple years ago won the conference in the regular season, but couldn't make it to the tournament. Do you feel like now maybe, conference play could really, because you've kind of bolstered your resume based off of a really tough non-conference, you feel like maybe the conference schedule will start to come close to equal some of the teams that you get to play in the non-conference?
Yes, I definitely think that it's going to put us in a better place. And from year to year, especially when the conference is bigger, when you have 12 or more teams, the nature of the beast, there's going to be some teams that maybe have a not so great year, and so RPI-wise, they sit in a place where they maybe hurt a little bit your chances. So having a smaller conference, again, a lot of teams that have done really well in the RPI, I think it helps all of us. I still think that a lot of it is going to be predicated by non-conference schedule, and that's why we schedule the way we do.
Now, looking back on kind of the Mountain West tenure, your kind of dynasty, essentially, you can kind of start calling it that, 3 straight tournament titles in the Mountain West. That, I think, is one of the most memorable parts for Utah State in the Mountain West, just when you look back on that. Obviously, there's hopefully a lot more good stuff going forward, but just, taking a second to look back, just how do you feel about the time you've had with Utah State so far, building it into the kind of the monster that's kind of become?
Yeah. No, it's been great. I always tell our players, sometimes you have to stop and look back just to see how far you've come, right? Because you get in the grind of, we're always trying to get a little bit better. The whole idea of growth mindset is something we take serious, and I think has been foundational in our growth. But sometimes that can be suffocating as well, right? And so it's important to look back, see how far we've come. And when I do that at our time in the Mountain West, I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, from year one, we made the tournament. We were competing with the top teams in the conference. And then within our first 3 years to be able to get that first tournament, you could see a shift in the mindset. Not so much the mindset, but the belief. The mindset of our players have always been competitive, always play to win. But when you finally get a tournament win, then you believe you belong, and I think that was critical in this shift. Now the next frontier is getting our first NCAA win, because I think once that happens, we have a good shot at being a team that makes a run.
Yeah, got to work on those PKs.
Tell me about it.
Oh, you have to bring up bad things. But this move into the Pac-12, like, how has it affected your recruiting? And just when you're talking to athletes about coming to Utah State and knowing what they'll be a part of now in the future, how has that affected you and your staff as you're out talking to athletes, trying to get them to come to Utah State?
Yeah, it helps. We've always been pretty aggressive on the recruiting front as far as we go after the players we want and we believe fit our program. We've never had the mindset of, less than, so we have to kind of limit ourselves to certain tiers of recruits. We go after everyone that we feel could fit, and we win some, lose some. But now going into the Pac-12, just sort of the credibility of the brand and the history, it's definitely helping us make more headway with some of those recruits that maybe in the past or when we first got here, we really couldn't get on the phone. Now some of those kids are calling us, want to come on visits, and we're committing some of them. So it's definitely a benefit for sure.
I want to ask about the new kind of 5 to play 5 rule that came out. I kind of made an assumption. I think Summer Diamond might get an extra year because of that.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. You can see me lighting up. Right?
Yeah. Like I made an assumption. And I was like, I should probably have double checked, but and then I think a lot of players. I mean, she's like the senior that's going to get another year because of that. There's some other players that had some injuries that were going to get a 5th year. But
yes.
It seems most of your roster kind of should get an extra year because you don't always utilize, like some players redshirt, but a lot of them are, a lot of them play as freshmen in a lot of cases.
Yes. This past year we had a lot of freshmen that played a lot, started for us. So that was great because those, assuming they want to stay or they decide to stay for a 5th year, they will have 5 years under their belt. And if you look at our best season to date, was when we had 9 fifth-year players that had been with me for 4 years. Back to Summer Diamond, I mean, she's been a leader. She's been a big part of what we've done over the last 5 years of building this. And we've already had a conversation. She's already expressed that she wants to stay for that 5th year, so we're excited about that. And there's others like, you mentioned, players that got injured. Kate couldn't play last fall. Due to an injury. She was lights out this spring, and she's already expressed, based on where she is academically and what she's doing, she's going to want to take her 5th year. And so for us to have that kind of talent, that kind of individuals sticking around for a 5th year, I mean, it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. It's pretty good. That was probably massive. A really good day for you. I think it was last week. I was on vacation when they passed that. Week. So very crazy.
Super excited about that.
World Cup's going on. How much of a bump do you see interest in soccer and people wanting to maybe be a little bit more involved with the sport when you see something like the World Cup happening, especially when it's happening here in the United States?
Oh, it's unreal. The energy, the interest level, everything has grown exponentially, and that's what the World Cup does. And I was joking with my family, and I say I wish the World Cup was every year. Because it's just the impact on people, on the community, on there's just so much joy and togetherness. But the impact in the game is, the last World Cup. Actually, I had just moved from Portugal. I got here in October of '93, and then summer of '94 was the last World Cup the U.S. hosted.
Yeah.
And I was in L.A., so I was in Pasadena when the final happened. I didn't go to the game, but I stayed outside and then got to celebrate with all the Brazilians. But we saw that's when right after that the MLS started. There was a big shift. And I think that this one is just going to take us to a whole nother level. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited about what the influence of the World Cup will have in the game in this country.
Have you guys had a chance to kind of watch it as a team or follow it as a team?
Yes. Well, the girls are not here, so everyone's following. There's a little bit banter in the chats and whatnot. But I've watched probably 80% of the games. I have 2 screens in my office, so if there's a game, one of the screens is on on the game. But now on our calendar, we just send out our July calendar to the team, and because they get here next week. So the quarterfinal games, the semifinal games, the final, they're all in the calendar. So those are going to be.
We can't have interruptions.
No, we're going to carve out time to make sure we
or
watch.
have practice and on a big screen or something like that.
No, we're gonna have it around practice because we I mean, this is the pinnacle of our sport, and I think it can be so not just fun but inspirational for our players. So we want to make sure we're carving out time and giving it the importance that it deserves.
So I'll wrap up with this question. I'll ask, what's your favorite moment from coaching in the Mountain West, and then kind of with that, what's the thing you're looking forward to most heading into the Pac-12?
Oof. Favorite moment coaching in the Mountain West. There's got to be two. Can I give you two?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. First one was, as to say, our first win down south in my first year at BYU. Reason being because it accelerated everything for us, from the belief our team had, the growth of our team, and our ability to recruit. Because if I'm honest, if you watch the game, we probably had no business winning that game. But we had a game plan. We went there with a goal to win, and the team stayed committed to it. They executed the game plan really, really well. And then even as we were swimming against the current, we managed to pull off a great win with some really good goals. So that accelerated everything, and I would say accelerated things by maybe 2 or 3 years. And then the other moment was our first Mountain West win. When we won that first championship, I still remember till this day, transition moment, Deswords plays a ball into Kate Christian, and she goes 1v1 with the keeper and just puts it to the right of the goalkeeper. I'm naturally sort of an emotional person. I was really emotional that day just because I know how much we demand of our players, how hard they work with no promises, no guarantees. So for them to get that reward, it was something that they deserved. It was something that our staff deserved because they worked just as hard. But also I knew that we were turning a corner with our program as far as the future. So those would be my two favorite moments.
There we go.
Well, you've had a lot of exciting ones.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we're super excited about what the Pac-12 looks like for you guys, and to see how the university has recognized your level of success and commitment, done some improvements to the facilities there, give you guys a much better field. Lights, you can do things at different times that's convenient for you.
Yeah.
So we're excited to see that Pac-12 logo on that soccer field.
Yeah, no, me too. And I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be super competitive. I guess I did not answer the second part of your question. I'm looking forward to how everything's going to be a little bit more challenging. I mean, even the tournament, only 4 teams are going to qualify. Yeah. So it's less forgiving. One extra tie, one extra loss can be the difference between making it to the Pac-12 tournament or not. So we just have to be a little bit more diligent in the details and our identity, and taking care of business. Because historically, in the last 4 years, where we stumbled the most has been usually against the teams that maybe on paper there was an expectation that we should win.
Yeah.
So we have to be better in those moments if we want to be competitive in the Pac-12 as well.
Yeah, it's the challenges that make winning all the more sweeter.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
it's good. All right, thank you so much, Manny, for joining us here, and best of luck as you enter the Pac-12 era.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Go Aggies.
And we're back here on the stream, and my camera's pointed the wrong way. Have a good look at the right top side of my face, and mostly that TV behind me.
That was a lot of fun talking to Manny Martins. We've really enjoyed our conversations with him. He's built a great program, a lot of success, great athletes who come and want to be a part of what he's doing here with his roster and his coaching staff. Improved field, improved conditions, and excited for their future in the Pac-12, which will be a competitive soccer league for them. It's not going to be a cakewalk for them, but they're positioned to be right there in the hunt with this new formed Pac-12 for women's soccer.
And also maybe get a regular season title, because that's a weird thing that they haven't had is obviously the NCAA. Honestly, the NCAA tournament win is probably more important than a regular season, because they finished second 3 years in a row, but then they go on and win the tournament title 3 years in a row. So it's maybe not that big of a deal, but get a regular season title, get an NCAA tournament title. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
But maybe get a win in the tournament first. You got to get at least one win to win an NCAA tournament title. But yeah, there's still ways for Manny Martins to go onward and upward. We saw Rob Nielsen making those progressions, finally getting a win in the NCAA tournament, but then he left. So I don't know, maybe some fans almost hope Manny doesn't, because then maybe he'll leave. But Manny's been
he's stuck around.
He's stuck around despite some real offers from elsewhere. So Manny certainly showing his commitment to the Aggies, as they've reciprocated that, investing literal money and money for renovations and a bunch of different things to improve that program. So
I wanted to tell you about the Best of Northern Utah contest. Winners were recently announced. Gold and silver medal winners.
Gold and medal winners.
Yes, gold and silver. Best of Northern Utah contest presented by Alpine Cleaning and Restoration, where we celebrate the best of what our community has to offer. Places like Hanson Motor Company, Boneyard Barbering, Bear Lake Window Cleaning, Les Olson Company IT, lots of different businesses recognized for doing really good at what they do. And you can find out those details online at bestofnorthernutah.com or by grabbing your own free magazine. There's lots of them in various locations throughout the area. If you want a map for where you can find that magazine, it's a great guide. It's bestofnorthernutah.com.
So to kind of start to wind down, I say wind down, it's going to be another 15 or so minutes at least on the show. We're going to try and wrap this up before 6 because I got to go home and watch the World Cup.
Big game coming up.
Yeah, really big game. The United States and Eric, help me out again.
Bosnia-Herzegovina.
There we go. We have to face Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Both,
as,
yes.
As my brother posts on social media. Bosnia and Herzegovina in this economy? Can't afford both.
That's right.
So, but we're going to play our interview that we had with Bronco Mendenhall. And I don't think we asked a single thing about the actual football team itself, but still a lot of things to talk about just with the Pac-12 and some general things about the program. So still a fun interview given in Bronco's signature ultra charismatic style. So I was going to go to it, and then I have to realize I have to get it queued up here.
Yeah, but no, interesting information just about, because there were some recognitions that happened here recently for Utah State. We touched on them last week, but he gives even more detail on that. Just the alignment that Utah State has right now, top to bottom, with the people in key positions to help move them forward, and just also his thoughts on some of the other things outside of his sport specifically, but 5 for 5 and what's going on with college sports and in being discussed in Congress. So he has opinions on all that, and we were able to ask him about all those things.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome here. We're here with KVNU 106.9 The Fan, and we've also got Utah State football head coach Bronco Mendenhall here on the show with us. I started this right as you were about to take a drink of water. I think I ruined it for you. Glad to have you on with us here with The Fan and with KVNU.
It's good to be here. Thanks.
So it's kind of an exciting time for Utah State, obviously, heading into the Pac-12. We've asked you a lot about it. We've had a lot of chances to talk about this. As it's finally here, you start putting all the Pac-12 logos on. You don't have to feel maybe guilty about it with still being in the Mountain West. Just what's that like for you to finally say, all right, it's Pac-12 time?
Man, I think many of us have been there already and for months. So, yeah, today's official, and it's fantastic and a huge step for Utah State, I think, stability-wise. But I also think as a challenger, progressive team, an institution that just is battling and never settling. And so I think all of that gives Utah State its best chance moving forward in today's landscape. But I also think it's pretty monumental, all it took to land in the Pac-12 and to be here. So I think that's been qualified for. I think it's been battled for. I think it's been really just a great opportunity for leadership, our president, our athletic director, and all the supporters that have worked really hard to get us here. The main point to me is our student athletes are going to benefit. Really quality teams they'll be playing against, regional, which I love, and at a higher level, which is, I think, all that anyone wants.
Yeah. And I guess you are the resident expert on leaving the Mountain West. You've done it twice now.
Yeah.
They consult you on how to transition out of the Mountain West specifically.
No, and I don't think I'm their favorite currently.
They can't hang on to you.
No, and my interactions at a few of the events, it's just like it wasn't just cordial and warm. It seems a little frosty. But as when I was at Brigham Young University, I remember as the league started there, We had won the league twice. Utah had won it twice, and TCU won it twice. And I remember after that span, both of those schools ended up leaving, and BYU chose to go independent. And really unique opportunities that come with change, and growth opportunities that come with change, and learning that comes with change. And so for Utah State, that'll all happen as well. There'll be growth, there'll be learning, and there'll be opportunity. And that's really the leaders and the programs that can adjust and adapt to all that, right? The fastest and the most precisely and the most effectively end up kind of moving toward the top of whatever new organization or league that is. And that every school in the Pac-12 will be looking to do just that.
Coach, this we've been talking to several different coaches and administrators here, just how much change has happened around here in the last 8 months. New university president, new athletic director, now we're moving into a different conference. I mean, you haven't been here for a long time, but you've been here enough to see kind of what the character of this community is like. Just how would you characterize this, the transition and the change that's happened just a short amount of time around here?
Yeah, it's been fascinating and all for the better. I love our president. I think he is the exact right person with the right ties, the right vision, the right qualifications, and quite frankly, just as a person to lead this institution. I feel the exact same way about our athletic director, Cam. I think he's the exact same way, and just so vibrant and bright with the perspectives and the passion and the work and the competency. And I think also when you add now a new football coach and a new basketball coach, there's probably, well, in my opinion, right, I'm not sure there's ever been a stronger alignment in the history of the institution from presidential level all the way through the primary sports through the athletic director on like-minded people that have a similar vision, that want to do things in a way that really reflects well on Utah State, our valley, our culture, and it's refreshing. It's really fun to be part of, and I'm super excited for our alumni and all of our fans, but also this community because of that. You add the Pac-12 to it, it just kind of ties it up in this bow of opportunity that, I'm not sure it's happened here before like this, and it's really fun.
Feel any pressure or maybe opportunity? I mean, not only because football is kind of the most visual, it's the most watched sport in college sports, but also you and then also Manny and Keith leading soccer and volleyball. You guys are the first kind of entrance into the Pac-12 you're going to be playing. Is there any you guys are leading the charge into the Pac-12 directly? Is there any kind of pressure? Or again, sometimes pressure is an opportunity, but how do you kind of view that where you're the first foray into the Pac-12?
Oh, I think there's absolutely pressure, and I think there's pressure everywhere for football coaches in particular. As you mentioned, number one, because of the visibility, two, because of the resources. And the better football does, really at any institution, the more healthy the athletic department is. And it's been really well documented that the effect it has on enrollment, on community well-being, when football plays well and the sports programs play well, there's just an enhanced well-being and community feel. So being the one that's kind of the most visible, absolutely there's pressure, but that's part of what any job has, any leadership position certainly has, and I accept that, and I know I'm responsible for it.
Get an email from Brad saying, we need enrollment numbers up. You got to win next week.
So I wouldn't say I got an email, but we all know it's implied, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's part of the job.
It comes with the job. And really no one has to say it because we all already know it. And that doesn't mean now I'm going to try harder. I mean, I already know. And everyone already knows. So that's, again, why. And it's very difficult because some folks can't reconcile the spending that occurs in college athletics until they see the back end yield of the finances and the benefit to the community. And so there's a tension point there, but really winning addresses that. Now when you win with amazing young people who treat others well in the community, who do really well in the classroom, who are kind of the ambassadors for what an institution might look like, that's a whole different type of program, and that's what I want.
Yeah, that's pretty much what college sports is all about in the end.
That's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
So recently, near the end of the year, there were some reports that came out, Utah State kind of celebrating work in the classroom among the athletes, student athletes, and then just this last week, another report about how well Utah State athletes have done in the community and volunteering, and football was very high on that list, one of the top in the country with volunteerism in the community. I know that's really important to you, to instill those values in your student athletes. What are some of the things that they're doing, and how are you getting them involved with the community?
Really, young people will rise to expectations that you set for them. If they understand and you ask them correctly, they're going to rise. And so the best GPAs in school history for football have already happened just in my short tenure here, because they were expected to be the best ever. And football was number one in the country in hours given, any institution at any level. And because it was expected, they're expected to make a difference in this community and to give back. So this idea that it's only football is just not something I can get behind, not in college athletics. And so I'm looking for comprehensive development of the kids. So how strongly they pursue their education fiercely matters to me. What they do in the community and how they treat others fiercely matters to me. And we're addressing all that at the same time. And then, to be clear, how they perform on the field, oh yeah, that fiercely matters. So you put all that together in preparation for what kind of people we want Utah State to produce. I think it has to be a comprehensive approach. So our freshmen are here now, and so each Wednesday, that day is dedicated for service for them. For our current team, weekly there's service opportunities. Players then choose to do things on their own. But again, it was the most hours in all of college football. And I believe the people in our organization are happier because of the giving. And college athletics has moved heavily about what's in it for each individual. And I would like the exact opposite approach. I'd like how much, after we acknowledge that, and that's how college football works, what can we give back? How can we help this community become even more vibrant and bright and successful than it already is? And I'd love Utah State to be at the core of helping this community do that.
Also, some fun character building. You had the hand cart.
Yeah.
Had the thing with the hand cart. So that was kind of fun. I have some hand cart pioneer ancestors. Could have used some of those football players back in the 1850s to pull those. Did you get involved in pulling any of those yourself?
I was working or wandering along the line of 28 different teams or 32 different teams. I forget how many we had. And helping gaps close and, kind of serving where needed. We had the organizers of the event were on horseback and kind of making sure everything was run properly from safety perspective. But really, it's college athletics, and I think many of these kids, as they move from one school to the next, they don't really grasp and really value where they are, how they got there, who settled that place, what were the stories. And I think that event, besides being difficult and team building and helpful in that regard, it was connecting them to a place and helping them understand and maybe show appreciation for those that have come before them, and not just change colors from one school to the next. But, oh, wait, I was in Logan, and we were up in the mountains, and we were pulling hand carts, and, man, there's folks that actually settled this valley this way. And that, I think that's a richer and deeper experience.
And we've talked about, all the things that are kind of, what college sports is supposed to be about. I know the Protect College Sports Act. I have a habit of asking your opinion on some of these things that are going on nationally, but as you look at that, kind of it's a second iteration of trying to fix college sports. Just kind of what is your perspective on that, especially where a lot of the issues they're addressing are trying to rein in spending with football. I know there's also men's basketball, but a lot of the issues they're targeting kind of stem from just the fall with everything with football and how much money gets spent with football.
Yeah, I think it's not only money spent, but money raised, and that's where sometimes it's not presented as such, and so there's a heavy business element to this. Many schools are losing money, for sure, and the biggest issue, regardless of the spending or the revenue generated, is the governance, and we don't have a governance structure that's consistent, cohesive, or effective. And so the state laws and the variance of those is a real challenge. The NCAA has lost its grip in terms of being able to be and win lawsuits in a manner that kind of provides baseline governance. And so there is the unique challenge. And so the legislation that's being present now really is just almost an indictment against sport, that we couldn't govern ourselves. And therein now has to be a reset to who does govern, under what rules, with what consistency, and can it be nationwide, not only statewide, or does it end up defaulting to regional, conference, specific, or et cetera? And so a step in the right direction in terms of the dialogue and what we're after in terms of being able to truly pull it off and have the governance needed. I think we're still quite a ways away from that. And having said all that, young people are still great. They respond to challenge. They listen to coaching. They want to be part of a great team. They want to get better. And they are the same. The landscape around it is different, but the young people are still great. So I don't want my message to be disillusioning to people. And coaches can lead and can instill values and can structure their own programs to counteract some of the other things that are going on in a college sport. To just be really clear, one of the main issues that I think, and when it's not said out loud, it just is a continued indictment against college athletics, is this has been pay for play for some time, and that is professional sport. And so, it's in the college setting, which means there are student athletes and they are going to class. But until that part is just said out loud and addressed, that these kids are being paid to play the game. That is what their contracts are based on. There are separate contracts that are name, image, and likeness, but the revenue share is tied to how they play the game. And so until the model reflects a professional model construct, there's just going to continue to be friction and lack of alignment. And that doesn't mean I expect folks to agree or disagree, but I'm just watching, and the financial structure is based on performance. And to say it's different than that is just not accurate.
I know the term that gets thrown around is collective bargaining. Is that just kind of a scary term for everyone right now?
I'm not sure if it's scary or just matter of fact. And I don't think college athletics is the NFL model, but are there elements that we could learn from the NFL? Certainly. And until the employment or non-employment issue is resolved, then it's collective bargaining or not collective bargaining. But if it is labeled employees, the governance part will then be, I think, more clear and more capably done than where we are now. So I like the idea of the legislation going forward. I think there are steps in a positive direction. I think that there's a lot of people that are trying to battle and do the best they can. We're just a ways away from seeing where this will end in a cohesive, effective, and quite frankly relevant manner.
One of the other things that happened here recently, the Division I Council has approved this 5 years for 5 years of eligibility.
Yep.
Your perspective on that and how it affects your sport?
Yeah, I've been a proponent for a long time. For all the years I was on the AFC Board of Trustees, the head coaches have wanted this for a long time. It makes it cleaner. It makes it regulatable. It reduces the number of appeals and subjectivity. And quite frankly, you eliminate the nonsense, especially now of a player coming and saying, I want a red shirt, and that's game 3 or game 4. And the maneuvering and manipulation that happens from coaches to players, and now players to coaches, it's just not healthy. And so it's a really good example of a clearer set of guidelines actually increasing moral conduct of people.
Yeah.
And that can happen at a much broader level when we get this right. So I've been for it. I am for it, and I think it's really good.
Yeah, it makes it a lot simpler. And I guess there's, I think, a couple of players that are going to get an extra year. I think maybe Brevin Hamlin was maybe one of those.
We have a short list of players that could have an extra year, and again, they'll choose, right? The ones that are grandfathered in, whether they want that and how they want it, etc. But I really like it.
Yeah, not too widespread. I know redshirting is pretty common for Utah State, but yeah, it's just.
What kind of challenges that pose though for you, where you could maybe evaluate where people are at in your spring and then a little bit in the summer, but as you approach fall, like these freshmen, you probably should redshirt, get your body right, understand the speed of the game. That goes away. Do you feel like this is a better opportunity if freshmen can get involved a little bit earlier on, or you still hold them out to just kind of depending on the individual and how they're progressing?
I think every coach kind of does it differently. I've always pushed for our freshmen to play as soon as possible and be involved as soon as possible, and then and only then, if they wouldn't, or their development's a little slower, then consider redshirting. Once I said redshirt, put it this way, the earlier I said redshirt, the less passionate, the less intense, the less productive, and the less committed that player became over my career. And so I learned pretty early on the best players will play regardless of age and year, and that I left those battles open the entire year as long as possible. because I think it brought out the best in people. And I don't like the idea of conceding, right, of labeling someone you're not going to play and then think, wait, their performance is now going to increase. That's a very difficult thing. Could it happen? Yeah. Is it challenging? For sure. But it also it allowed someone else to concede outcome without them really pursuing it with the same passion. And so just throughout my career, it's been, I have no issues with first-year players playing if they're the best player, and I want as many of them to play as possible. And I always learned over time, because of transferring or missions or whatever else, it just always works out. The redshirt year will just kind of fall wherever it falls, rather than truly try to architect it or impose it at the front end. Even though it might more naturally happen there, I didn't like any freshmen thinking that's just what's going to happen.
I imagine it helps maybe a lot with depth, especially late in the year. If guys are getting injured, you don't have to be like, am I going to pull a red shirt, or you don't have to count 4 games. Can this guy still play and all that?
We had 3 or 4 or 5 injuries before or during the Washington State game. And, when you have the depth of roster for young players that are available, and that really helps. And so Charger Doty a year ago, there was a difficult decision there, and trying to make sure the play count and the role was significant enough, right, because he was playing, to do right by him in his development, but also for him to do right by the team. And that's pretty typical, or was typical. That will now go away.
Yeah, now about 6-7 months later, it's like, why did we worry about it? The decision ended up not mattering.
That's right.
But thank you so much, Bronco, for joining us here, taking some time during this celebration of Utah State moving onward and upward into the Pac-12. Yeah, one last question.
Last question for me, just timeline for, fall camp's not that far away. What's the rest of the summer look like for you and your players, and when they start reporting to campus?
Yeah, so our players are off the 4th of July week, so this week. Our freshmen are here training, but our others are off. And then they report back on Monday, so that's just one break they've had. They've been here the entire month of June. So they just finished all of June. They'll be here all of July, and that goes right into the start of fall camp. Their next break will basically happen in May in terms of a significant break, which is next year. Our coaches report back, so that they're rotating through on an office schedule where they cover the office in 2s throughout the course of July. We're back full speed July 29th. Players report, even though they're already here, right? Basically, camp opens on the 2nd of August, and then here we go.
All right, well, hopefully you enjoy the kind of one slow time that you kind of actually get during the year. So
yeah, I'm here in July with the players, so but that's where would I rather be? Yeah. It's great.
You can go ride some horses with them.
Yeah, that's the idea.
It'll be fun. All right, thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Bye, guys.
All right, so that's we got to adjust the cameras as we come back. They like to wander when
we don't necessarily sit still during these replays of these videos.
Yeah, so a lot of fun. We're going to post all these interviews individually on YouTube. Of course, you can watch pretty much all of them going back. We've got ones. We got to give some TLC. We had an audio bug during our interview with Brad Mortensen. We got one from Kristen Zaleski, who I accidentally called Kristen Zelensky at the end of that interview. But we'll have those on YouTube. We'll see if we can get them on our podcast feed as well. I got to convert them to like audio files and all this fun stuff. So,
yeah, but appreciate the Utah State Sports Information Department helping us out today, getting these coaches lined up for us, and the time that these coaches and administrators gave to us to highlight this really special day. Utah State into the Pac-12. It still feels weird saying it. Like, it's always been this thing that's on the horizon. Like, yeah, they got accepted, but it's still months down the road. Well, here it is. It's now. Like, the next time you show up to a sporting event at Utah State, there will be a Pac-12 logo on that field or on that court.
Yeah, Pac-12 jerseys, Pac-12 patches, Pac-12 logos on the courts, all this fun stuff. And it's still hard to really fathom, like, because Pac-12 has obviously this air of prestige around it. Obviously, there's an understanding that maybe some of that's not there, but it's still a Pac-12. It is still upward and onward for Utah State, as we've detailed plenty of times. It is moving up in conference, and not just as a last-second fill-in. They're moving up ahead of where they used to be as a program. They have gained prestige over teams that used to be filling these voids ahead of them.
Yeah, there's been some significant strides in fundraising over the last 6 months, in ticket sales. That needs to continue, especially for football and some of these other sports. Interesting that circling back to our first conversation that we shared with Cam Walker, that Utah State has an anonymous donor who's put up $2 million, a matching $2 million for the month of July. So if an additional $2 million can be raised in the next 31 days, that turns into a $4 million donation to the university and to athletics. And then also just about things that are going on, just the health of the university and the athletic department moving into this new era. And this concert that they're putting on later this month, that helps athletics. So it's an interesting way to celebrate the Pioneer Day weekend. Go to watch a great country artist and see some fireworks. There, we may not be able to light fireworks on this
that's true.
24th of July. We don't know. I mean, if conditions continue like they are, that may be the best way to see fireworks. So those are all things that help the athletic department meet the goals that it's trying to set out there to be competitive in this new league.
Yeah, it's nice to see the ticket sales. Like for basketball, I was kind of wondering, like, are they going to be able to match what they did last season, selling it out in the preseason, like new coach, so much uncertainty. But no, they've not even skipped a beat. They've pretty much sold out their season ticket allotment, and I think that bodes really. And the fact they have like 1,000-person wait list for season tickets, that's going to bode well for basketball attendance, where they've retained a lot of that hype, even with losing Jared Calhoun. I think that speaks to how important Mason Falslev and Carson Templin were. The Aggies returned 4 players from last year's roster, but the hype is largely still there among the fans. So I think that's a big deal. And then with football, like, there's a lot of work to do with ticket sales for Utah State football, but the fact that they are moving forward, like, they had kind of a rough start in the Bronco Mendenhall era. Like, I had a whole thing about where it was like the worst first game of the season attendance and all that in a long time. I think it was 19 years or something like that. And it looks like, it got better throughout the season, but I think they're not having to ramp up from such a low point like they did last season. Even with the fact they still only went 6-7, there is hype building for the football program. It's not near what the basketball team has, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, well, they have the Show Me initiative for fundraising. I think fans have the similar attitude for football. Show me. Yeah, that this is a serious football program, and we will come back.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing with Bronco. I continue to be impressed with him, like what he prioritizes. He prioritizes, like, because people talk about young men and building young men, and you have these SEC coaches that talk about that, and then you look at their actions as opposed to their words. Their actions do not back up those words about building men. Bronco backs that up. And Absolutely. That's one of the things I've been the most impressed by him. You can talk about what he may or may not have done on the football field yet with Utah State football, but he backs up what he says. And that's something that is at the very least admirable.
And trying to do it the right way, which doesn't yield immediate results always, but it eventually does yield results. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Just be patient. It's getting better. We saw that over the course of last season, and just see that continue to build and grow and develop for Utah State football in this new era.
All right, that's going to be a wrap for us on today's show. You got 2 hours, including a full commercial-free second hour.
That's right.
With us. So, and hope you appreciate the extra content. But it was a big day, which deserved a full, bona fide second hour for us here on Full Court Press, with obviously the back end of that being podcast and YouTube stream only. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We've got things we still weren't able to get to with Utah Mammoth and some other things. We didn't even get to the World Cup. The World Cup United States game is starting right now, so we got. That's another reason I want to get the stream done with, is because I want to go watch the USA game. But again, thank you so much, and make sure to tune in tomorrow. Listen to the stream on YouTube, or tune in to 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan, and we'll be back at it then. Thanks so much for listening.